Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George-Affleck.
And it's time for
Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-day, unspun.
I'm gonna wave you in ahead of me, and you give me a peace sign out the window.
Oh my God, it is one of my pet peeves, this whole zipping in. So tell us what, because I'm dealing with this on two sides of my home right now, where there's two zipper situations happening because of construction. Getting out of my house is impossible right now.
So, long story as short as I can make this. Grew up in Tawasin. Have gone through the Massey Tunnel 9,000 times. It was my first ever article that I wrote for the Orca, was about traveling through that tunnel.
Yeah.
I had to go visit my parents who still live in Tawasin. And I stopped at Danny's Wonton House at Ironwood Plaza, which is that first little mall on Steveston when you head west off of Highway 99. And I zip in there. I got my HOV. I'm like, do south. It's 2:00 on a Friday. So 2:00, usually you can get through the tunnel fairly well. So I zip in there, pick up the food, 5 minutes. Coming out of the mall parking lot, first of all, nobody wants to let anybody out of the mall, which is whatever, bunch of jerks.
Yes, I know.
But then we get into the, oh, Jesus.
That's
like, oh my God, that car length is going to save you like a whole 15 seconds. Like, oh my God. Anyway, that's my inner voice coming out.
In the car though, you're actually saying throw a few swear words in there. That's what I do. Like, I never swear more than I do by myself in the car. Other people.
Same. I am the queen of the gestures. You think I talk with my hands on TV? You should see me in traffic. So we're going eastbound on Steveston Highway towards the 99. And I'm not even sure what the cross street is there, the one that the keg used to be on. Shoot, that first street just west of Highway 99, where it is an absolute debacle of merging, right? There's a lane that's coming to an end. There's one lane plus kind of a lane that's going to merge in with the one that's going to, so two mergers onto one going onto the highway southbound to go through the tunnel. Like the tunnel's right there.
You're moving at a snail's pace, of course.
It took me 20 minutes to get through a light because people we're not letting they're like, nope, I'm gonna go up against this person's bumper. I'm gonna be this far away from him. I was just like, oh my God, you people are nuts. So whatever. When I had my opportunity, I'm like, you know what? You go and you go, because all of us can start moving then. And we get around the corner and there's one more merge. So I'm going along and everybody in front of me is kind of doing it. And then there are these two asshats in a minivan who, George, I'm not kidding you. I had watched almost 4 accidents happen. Like, I mean, full on, not like you're a jerk, but actual accidents. And then these guys were ready to take off the side of my car to not let me zipper merge with them. And they're
because they think you're cheating or what?
The testosterone in them will not allow the woman ahead of them in traffic. I don't know. But the beautiful thing is I was like, all right, guys, off you go, you bunch of numbnuts. And then they go by and they're driving down the highway with their left turn signal on. And I'm like, okay, I got to tweet about this. So there's my long story long. Yeah. And then I tweet about it. And then I got actual mansplainers telling me about how merging works. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, you need to sit down.
The point is, we know how merging works here. That's what I was trying to do. It's like, why are people so, especially when there's those ones at lights where the merge is on the other side of the light. So and maybe it's a short distance, but then you can see the merge. And so you don't merge before the light. Please go through the light. It's much traffic, and then you merge up there, and then the two lanes back in the light stay, and then they go together, and then they merge. It's a zipper. It's a zipper. Look at a zipper. Everybody.
You mean you don't want to block the full zipper lane and the main lane at the light to make sure that
why is this so hard? Why is this so hard? It's like, and then you see people, which is fine, I guess. It's weird when you see people who've left a big gap, really huge gap. And you're like, okay, what's that all about? That's a whole different mindset of merging that I don't get. Like they're way behind, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna merge, I guess, because you're too far back between. You got to make it tight. A zipper is exact distances all the way down, and if you do it, traffic will flow. it just, I don't understand why this is so complicated to people. And I love when you're drawing when you go in the tunnel or something, and people, and the whole lane change thing every day. And I've gone out there when I'm on whatever, I'm on the wrong. Yeah.
Yep.
And so I'm like, but of course I'm going to go as long as I possibly can on the lane that's open to the merge point, which is where you're supposed to go.
You're a jerk. You're a line cutter.
I know. And then people think you're cheating. You go, no, that's how it works, so that all the traffic space is being used on the road and you're not lining up all the way 1 billion kilometers back. It's like, why is it so hard to people? And I'm like, you shouldn't be mad at me. You should be joining me in this lane, everyone. Why are you just like, get over here with me and let's all merge together? I don't, it's one of those things too. I'm like, why? And also people who sit in the left lane who are going slower. I hate, that makes me so mad. And they're sitting beside a car and they're going the exact same speed. And you're looking at them and you're like, and I've honked and blinked my light. I get so mad. I'm just like, get out of this lane. And I drive sometimes a bit.
They feel you're going too fast. They're going to slow you down. They have decided, the person who's driving slowly in the fast lane, who's boxed in with the car beside, they're teaching you a lesson, George.
Oh my God, it drives me crazy.
Isn't that just the craziest thing you've ever heard? I move over to the left to let those people go burning by me so they get the ticket. You go get the ticket. You go get it. I don't care if you go fast.
I always try to find a pace car, let somebody else in front of you and just
100%.
Just a little bit behind.
Yep. 100%. It's when you're in traffic. Here's the most important part. It makes you feel so good to be kind in traffic. And you can call me a snowflake if you want. I roll down my window in a rainstorm to give a peace sign out the window. Just thank you. Thank you for doing it right. Thank you for being a good person. Peace sign in the back. Every single time I wave, my son thinks it's hilarious because the one off chance that I don't do it, he goes like, well, you didn't wave. I'm going to teach you to be a good driver. But I also swear like a sailor.
Yes.
I do. Zipper merge. And, we kind of recognize how to do it. Anybody who lives on the North Shore, who commutes to downtown, that is like a case study.
Bridge, especially
coming across the Lionsgate Bridge. The people that know how to do it would never think to squeeze up against the person in front of them, to cut out one person. And let me tell you, when you do that, everybody in eyeshot is looking at you like you're an absolute idiot. Not letting people in makes you look like a jerk. Those two guys in the minivan with the left turn signal on, karma's coming for you. I'm going to get VIP parking as a result of the karma you gave to me. I call it parking karma, but this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Let's talk about other things that are ridiculous. I don't have a glass with me, but I would cheers you on the communications thing. Cause you know what? The city of Vancouver did look at this.
Tired as F.
Yeah, it's the Tragically Hip album or song.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay. That was it. So you signed up for something this week. What a good citizen.
Well, I wanted to, and I have to put a caveat up front because I'm gonna take a little bit of a shot at City of Vancouver. Mike Klassen got back to me pretty promptly on this and clarified.
Because it's probably his idea. I'm betting.
Is it? He's a good dude. So I'm not painting the whole city with one brush, but I saw the logo for Beautify Vancouver Day.
It's a little foreshadowing there.
It is a bit of foreshadowing. Beautify your city, whatever. And the logo is excellent. And I'm like, what a great idea. I got the press release. I got the logo.
57, whatever calms people. Good job.
Right. And then I got the Eventbrite. I'm like, okay, you know what? My little area of Vancouver could use a scrub. It could use a scrub. It could use a coat of paint on our lampposts. If they're going to supply me with the green paint, to every single lamppost on West 4th Avenue at McDonald has graffiti on it. I think as a community, we could come in and just, beautify down West 4th Avenue and beautify it up and take care of it. Show the businesses that we are there for them or whatever. But try and just, I think I could gather a bunch of people together or, sweep out the corners, help a little, rinse down a spot or two. I mean, you and I talk about it all the time.
Pick up some garbage.
I'd be so good with that. But give me the brooms and the things. And I'm not going out to pick up the stuff, to pay for the stuff, to then bring back and volunteer to give my time in a city that I pay a ridiculous amount of tax in. So I love the fact that this was an initiative. Problem was, I went to the Eventbrite and it said, reserve your spot. And I'm like, reserve my spot for what though? And so I went, I'll do that later. And then I went to the Eventbrite and it's like, check back. We'll tell you what's happening.
Oh,
And I'm like,
no.
it's this weekend. Like,
Is it?
it's this
So
coming weekend.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's crazy. So there's no way to do it. So you don't know what you signed up for or nothing, or you're getting nothing.
I had no idea what to sign up for. And then I tweeted about it because I often do. And Mike Klassen did get back to me and he goes, it's just a couple of areas that we're inviting people, Chinatown, downtown, or East Side, East
Why?
Van, some hot spots that have extra graffiti or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, good luck. Have a good time. You know,
well, that should be more clear on their messaging.
He's like, there was more to come though. I absolutely applaud the idea, but I think more effort was put into the press release and the logo than was the actual details of the event. What are you asking the citizens to do? And I think it would be a great idea for all of us, for residents and taxpayers in Vancouver or renters, doesn't matter. People who love here, not people who live here, but people who love here. That should be a campaign slogan. We could get busy, but we need the tools. It can't cost us more. It can't cost us more, but we'll do the work. So I'd like to
well, and looking at my tax bill, that's this that I got, it's like 15-20% increase. And I think that, it's interesting though. I mean, this, like next, almost over 15% year over year.
Oh, dude, I'm sorry to hear that.
So much for averaging. The thing is, what's interesting. I mean, this calm thing. I mean, this is what, no, sorry, Mike, but you were very vocal back in the day about bloat at City Hall, and I haven't seen any bloatation at City Hall.
That's the title of today's podcast. Debloatation.
I haven't seen it, and the comms team being the specific one that, and I saw there's a job posting there for a senior communications person. How about not hire another senior communications? How about not post that job, guys, for $100,000 plus.
There's a new chief of staff too, right?
Yeah, they promoted somebody. I'm a bit confused about how many staff or who's in the mayor's office anymore. Some people have come and gone. Seems like there's a lot of change going on there. We have to look into that.
Okay, let's look into that. Speaking of things we got to look into, what's happening with the Kiefer?
Well, they had 200 people. I think over 200 people, like 98% of them were opposed to the Kiefer. This is a new development that fits in the zoning. Yeah. So it actually meets the criteria of the zoned area. So they don't even, so it's not even a public hearing. This is a hearing with the staff. And we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. It's still going on. There are so many people. Clearly they've, the advocacy groups have rallied the troops, and the original design that came to me when I was on council was it had social housing in it, and the pressure that was put on, and we approved it, and the pressure was put on, and then it got reversed by staff, and then it came back as to zoning, and it didn't get approved. And then I'm like, what is going on? And this poor project is just, it's, if you don't do these kinds of projects in Chinatown and the downtown east side, you're not going to get any change happening down there. And nobody's going to want to change anything down there. You're not going to want anybody building anything. They just won't want to be there. And this is, if you have to go through a 5-6 year process to build what is it? I don't know, 6 stories. It's not even teeny. But it's now all strata. It had seniors housing in it, but now it's just all strata. But it could have been this great building for seniors. And
why is it not seniors anymore?
Because they went back to the original zoning. The developer gave up trying.
Oh, shoot.
It's like, okay, I'll have to do what's zoned here as is. So it's just ridiculous. Anyways, yeah.
But then the 331 or whatever permitting thing has come into effect. That was another
I think we did something similar when I was in council. I think Tony Tang brought something similar in, and it was like every permit must be approved within, I think it was 3 months or something like that. And and nothing ever happened to it. You can't speed up bureaucrats. You just can't. You have to find a different way to do it. So if you're going to, you can ask staff to work faster, but I'm sorry, that's just not how it works. You have to change the technology. First of all, you have to change what is the approval process. Right. You have to create rubber stamping kind of process. You have to create this sort of nexus concept. You have to have pre-approved builders that you don't even need to submit an application, where they just go, okay, Joe Smith's a great builder. He's never had a complaint against him. It will do a check at the end, and I'm sure it's fine. That's the way. If you want to speed up the process of construction in the city, stop.
Which has to happen.
Form fills.
I'm no expert. as you well know, I am no expert, but the fact of the matter is this amount of red tape and bureaucracy is feeding the beast that is destroying the city, because there is nowhere to go. There's nowhere to live. And the affordability is spiking because the supply and demand, like going back to the thing that you taught me in the first week of our podcast, of this podcast,
5 years ago.
Oh my gosh, George, but there used to be buildings that were built for people to just live in, and they weren't fancy, and they were rentals, and they were, I'm so confused by the terminology now. I don't know what a market rental is, right?
What is affordable housing? Define
what is
that, please.
Affordable housing
in Vancouver?
What is social housing? What is seniors housing? Like, how about we house people in places that don't have, exotic bamboo floors and a gold-plated toilet?
Well, we can have those, but
exactly. But it shouldn't. That's just it, though. But we don't have more of everything, because the exotic, expensive 500 square foot closet for $1 million is making more for the developers. And we understand developers, a free market. Developers should make money. I'm not slighting the developers, but the city should be building city housing on city land built for people to live in, period. There is land, build it.
Oh yeah, we're the biggest land. City of Vancouver is the biggest landowner. So if you include the streets. But yeah, and that article I tweeted a couple weeks ago about the guy on TikTok, and he talked the main point of that thing, not just in Canada, but it was Canada mainly that talked about, which was this major cities, and this is happening in the States, are like San Francisco, are anti-development. They don't, all these people who live in their homes don't want change, and they don't want more density, so they push back. And every single city across North America is facing this anti-development. These boomers who are so entitled, and they're left and right on the political spectrum.
No doubt.
Worse on the left. I mean,
worse on the left
socialists are sitting there. Yes, well, I can't. Not my neighborhood. Well,
but they're also saying you can't build. But they're saying the left champagners are also pointing. Oh, we mustn't do that to the downtown. We must not do that to the Kiefer, because the vibe of the neighborhood, we should turn that down. That's not a right-leaning group that's stopping that 6-story building from being constructed. And I say that as a middle, I don't consider myself a dyed-in-the-wool anything, but I get accused of being a super snowflake. I don't consider myself a conservative, and we'll get into some of the reasons why, particularly now on a federal level, if they're going to bring up the abortion situation. But before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about what's kind of trending in BC politics in Metro Vancouver politics right now. There's some allegations against I think a former school board member who allegedly has a fake Twitter account that has been like out and out allegedly horribly trolling. I reached out to this individual once, because it appears that they follow me. So I followed them back, and I DM'd them like, are the allegations true here? I have not heard back. I can check while we're chatting here.
That whole fake Twitter account, so 2008. I mean, it's like, why are people still thinking they can get away with that? And why would you ever, I mean, and especially if you're, I don't know whether this person's a politician or not, if they're in office, you absolutely should not be doing that. Absolutely not. I don't understand why you just wouldn't, if you're afraid to say your opinions as who you are, then why even, like, what's the point? I mean,
then you should reconsider what your opinions actually are.
Yeah.
If you can't say them publicly and stand for them, then you should be looking at what you're saying. The amount of garbage I've had, as you well know, hurled at me. If I was standing before these people, and I'm not a big person, I'm 5'5.5" and 125 pounds soaking wet. I'm not an intimidating individual, but I would bet you $1 million that 99% of the people who spew at me anonymously would never say it to my face.
No. And the thing is, we're not talking about Russian bots or anything like that. We're talking about actual humans people that are spending a lot of energy creating these fake accounts to do their damage for whatever reason that they have. And the kind of damage that people can have on you. It's nonsense, and it's not necessary. And just tell us, what you think. And if people don't like it, stand up for what you believe in, or shut up.
Or shut up. Okay, so let's move to Surrey Police Services. And you know what? I bet you there's a bunch of bots associated with that. I'm just going to say, because I mentioned something and they're like, your girlfriend, Lisa or Linda Steele. And I'm like, oh, okay, weird. That's
staffing sometimes. Yeah, you see that with, I certainly saw that at City Hall. There was a few hidden, secret accounts of staff who usually were actually, there was a couple that were supportive of me when I was in office, which, hey, okay, great. But they had fake names, but they were, and some were quite popular. Some were just quite funny, but they were still fake. So I think that's happening. That happens more often than we think. I still think staff is one thing. Politicians doing it is like, it's not your job is to be. But yeah, the Surrey thing though. So what do we think? The province is not going to give her them more money. It looks like.
Okay, wait. Let's set it up here because right now, the RCMP is still in control of municipal policing in policing in the municipality of Surrey, the Surrey RCMP. The Surrey Police Services has a significant staff. The transition is well underway. Brenda Locke, I don't even know if we call her the new mayor, the latest mayor, heels dug in, will not do the transition, as was strongly urged by the public safety minister in the province, are now saying, listen, unless you meet these, I think it's 5 or 7 requirements with the RCMP, which, if you know anything about the way it works, next to impossible to meet all of these without significantly putting at risk further other jurisdictions in British Columbia. So, but Brenda Locke hasn't read the report. She won't sign the NDA. She won't allow her counselors who she's got in line. Only 2 counselors have signed the non-disclosure agreement and read the full report. And so now Mike Farnworth, the public safety minister, has gone on record to say, you should delay holding a council meeting where you will vote on policing in Surrey until you explicitly tell us how you're going to meet these requirements, because all arrows are pointing towards Brenda Locke digging in her heels and sticking with the RCMP and not continuing the transition to Surrey. And that takes me to the money. All told, it's about $250 million that the province is willing to give to the city of Surrey. Some of that over the next number of years. I think it's 170 up front and then 30 for the next couple of years for the like the province is willing to buffer that. And Brenda Locke is like, no. So it is expected that she might hold a secret meeting. And Mike Farnworth has said, if you do that,
well, I think it's called in camera. I don't think it's called secret meeting.
But secret, public. I'm reading it off the Twitter, George. Okay. I'm reading it off the Twitter.
Yeah.
So now Farnworth will be able to what? Unspin it for me. What's happening?
Well, I mean, we talk about this a lot, and weighing the politics of this with a looming election potentially here in this province, if they want to do a snap one, which I've said many times, I think Eby will, because he doesn't want his support to decline and then going to be weakened by Kevin Falcon, because there is momentum on the BC United team for sure. I think that, I think if you think of, I'm speculating, but it seems like generally the city councils in Surrey are what I would perceive as right of center. And so I think that whatever those people believe, and you have a left-wing federal, it's kind of like Vancouver, when Vision was in power and Liberals were in the provincially, and it was just, this is this battle on everything. And I think I get the sense that this might be a little bit about that there's a right wing, government, or generally in council in Surrey, it's been kind of a right of center council for a long time. And yet you have a city that's dominated by a left wing MLAs. And I don't know what that means. I think it's something that must be, it's got to be pulled. It's got to be good looking at the data and thinking about support and the RCMP versus the Surrey police and crime and all those things. They're polling all the time, political parties, especially if they're in power. They know exactly where the sentiments are on the issues. That he's doing this because he knows that he has the support for what he needs to achieve, whether that be politically or just in general. I think it's interesting because I think that the exact opposite is true. I think in some ways with Eby's hardcore push on the housing thing, on making municipalities, because I think in his own riding, he's putting himself at risk, which is your riding. And we talked about this. He's putting himself at risk of getting voted out in that riding, which is quite common in that riding. It's a flippy riding that he might get the boot and be the premier, just like Christy Clark was.
There are a lot of NIMBYs in my neighborhood.
Yeah,
a
and
lot.
they don't like the sound of this, and he's pushing hard on that. So yet here we have this Surrey police thing where we have the province really pushing hard, it seems like, for the Surrey, its own police force. I'm not sure if it's union related, which we've talked about. Like they've got a lot of unions here.
They'd have to union bust to stop the Surrey police transition.
So they like the
They'd
union
have to
for
union
the
bust.
police, the RCMP, or they like the Surrey police union better than the RCMP union. I mean, they're both unionized.
Right, but the RCMP would continue to exist. The Surrey Police Services would not. One would be busted and one would not be. And by reading the tea leaves, and obviously I listen to Linda when she talks about this. I don't know Norm Lipinski better than anyone. I've met him in person once in my entire life, but I like his wife. So if that's a thing, but I have no skin in this game. I talk also to Sarah Daniels, who lives in South Surrey, White Rock. And so, she has opinions on this as well. And it's interesting how politicized this has become. It's like, if you support Surrey Police Services, then you are a fan of Doug McCallum. And if you support Brenda Locke, then you're a fan of the RCMP. I think that's garbage. I do. And I don't want to piss anybody off by saying that, but I look at that and I'm like, this is not about who the mayor is. Neither of those people know anything about what it really means to keep a municipality safe. Like, I do not believe, as much as, Ken Sim is good at a lot of things, I don't believe that he knows how to run the VPD. Like, I don't. So, and I would say that with any mayor in any municipality, you have to trust law enforcement to manage law enforcement. And right now we have two law enforcement entities who clearly are battling one another instead of fighting crime the way they should.
Yes.
And it
that's
feels
Farmer's point,
expensive.
Right?
Totally.
He's
so
saying,
it feels
look,
expensive.
We're in trouble here in not doing your jobs as a city government to oversee the policing of your town, which is already, having
at risk
with crime.
Yeah, it was at risk before. I think if I was to unspin it, that Mike Farnworth is doing all of his due diligence here to set a precedence that, I'm going to allow you to continue to go down the path that you're dug in on. That is not the path that we have studied and tested and looked at. I think it's less about polling and more about they've crunched the numbers and they're looking at it and they're like, okay, we actually decided that this is the best route to go. And that they're going to continue to let the politics of this play out. And then the province is going to say, okay, enough now. It's our time to step in and keep the people of Surrey.
Which is their right. Because the cities work at the pleasure of the province.
100%. And at some point we got to stop the garbage and get to the business of it. Speaking of garbage, let's go south of the border. Oh, before we go there, let's talk politics at the federal level.
Well, you touched on it earlier.
The Conservatives.
They've been an attempt to raise the issue of abortion, and it failed. To bring that back to discussion. They said I thought they said they were going to do this. And then I saw a tweet today from the federal Liberals saying they tried, they failed. But it's certainly something that's telling and concerning if you are, depending on where you stand on the abortion issue. We all thought this was a done deal, that this wouldn't be happening anymore in Canada. We're not America. Well, Americans thought that because it had been Supreme Court had decided on it, and they managed to pull that off, which is really tough. But here, looks like the Conservatives appear to be wanting to make this an election issue, which I don't know where that would benefit them. It certainly wouldn't benefit them in the Vancouver area, in the cities, which is where they need to get their votes. They need the major centers to win. So they're going to alienate, maybe not Montreal, but certainly Toronto, certainly Vancouver, probably Calgary. I don't understand why you would take that risk, but clearly they're again, they must think that this is something that's going to resonate and separate them. Are there not other issues that we can talk about that make you different? Like money?
Clearly not. Clearly not.
Money and taxes and inflation.
I think they're going to lose. I think they're going to lose women, and women are ever more important because in the older demographic, women outlive the men. Frankly, and statistically speaking, and the young
what happened
people
in Wisconsin on that front,
and the activation,
really driving, activating them and getting that vote out. If you get the vote out, that certainly was proven in the States. And women
activate their kids, young people, even young men who want women to have the right to decide what is best for
It's not even
themselves
like a
and their own
conversation
bodies.
that's happening
It's-
that I know of with
but
young
no.
people.
But if they make it a thing, that's going to activate young people to say, oh, I've never voted before. But if they're saying that they're going to bring back rules around how women treat their own bodies and their own personal health, I'll vote, and I'll vote against it. And I mean, if I was the opposition to that, that's what I would run on. I'd be like, that's happening.
It's
they're saying
definitely
this.
a wedge issue, as they
It's
say.
the wedge
in
issue
politics,
for sure.
and I'm not sure if,
Donald
if
Trump,
it's a winner for the conservatives, but
no. Donald Trump indicted. What do you think
again,
there? What do you think?
I just think it's just more of the same. I really honestly don't think he's ever going to see any jail time, or I just feel like he has a good chance of being the next president. Because he's polling well, he's going up. Talk about wedge issues, it's like wedgie issues. I don't see, when you look at it's like, I just feel like it's a broken record about, oh, this time we got him. And you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe. You look at the poll, you look at the judge that's in Florida, you look at the potential jury that they can't get. It only takes one juror to, hang the jury, to say, nope, he's innocent. And then they have to go to trial again, which would be long after the next election. And then there's other, and there's an issue in Georgia, there's more in New York, and there's this. I'm highly skeptical that this guy is ever going to be in jail.
My thing is less about him going to jail and the shock that I feel viscerally in my body at the Republicans who are standing by.
And Fox News, the way they talk,
and making excuses, but it's not. I'm not so much. I mean, we have our own version of Fox News north of the border.
But you
it's
see
just garbage.
It's
garbage. It's garbage. It's absolute hot stinking pile of refuge. But when you watch, I watched Dana Bash interview Jim Jordan, and it was wild. I watched Sean Hannity interview Gavin Newsom. And that was a fact check in real time. I thought that.
Well, it's hard to hear them both. They were talking over each other a lot, but
you could see Hannity getting Hannity is like, oh, I'm not used to this. I'm not used to being challenged. And it was like Newsom was armed and ready to go.
Sidetrack a little bit, but the fact that Tucker Carlson has a bigger audience than he ever had on Fox now on Twitter.
I don't click on it. He's not. Nobody's paying him millions of dollars to do it.
Unless Elon
Musk starts paying him.
I just think it's a statement about what's happening with media and Fox and CNN. When you can, and he's going to get his ass sued, but he doesn't care because he's going to be making so much money. He'll pay Vox whatever they want.
And will.
And Elon Musk has put a call out saying if anybody on the left wants to join and do the same thing, he'd love to have them there.
Sure he has.
Yeah, he tweeted it. I think
I'm sure. I'm certain he'll promote it just as equally too. Yeah, no, I don't trust that guy as long as I am in fact cynical, but I'm cynical about all cable news, and that includes the left and the right and the center. I look at it and the nonstop 24-hour 365 Trump, when there's absolutely other things to report on in this world, but they're staying with this even when there's nothing new about it. They stay with it because it brings in the numbers, and that's not
especially
news.
A lazy panel concept. I'm like,
oh God, yeah. Everything starts with look, listen, look.
What about the guy getting fired from CNN though? The head cheese there that they brought in to shake things up, and then he did, and then they crashed, and then they fired him.
Yeah.
Okay. Don Lemon will be back.
It's really, I don't like to cast stones across the bow at colleagues in the industry, because I know the people that are working there are working really hard. They're not in charge of, the direction an entire network goes, right? Like we're watching Caitlin Collins on CNN. She's the chief White House correspondent who then gets moved into the studio, and then somebody unearths her on Fox News from, the early days of her career, spewing right-wing talking points. That does a disservice to the media. I think Caitlin Collins is a wonderful journalist, and she, articulates herself beautifully under a lot of.
She's on CNN. Great.
Exactly. Well, she's not right-wing, but she was. But who cares? But that's just it. When you're a journalist, nobody should really know your politics, and more we're having it so that everybody knows your politics.
Yeah. Well, in America, you have to tell everybody what you are. That's what's weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like that, you have to put that on your driver's license.
You do?
When you submit,
No.
I think you have to say if you're Democrat or Republican. Yeah, in America. I'm gonna find.
I gotta ask my stepdad. My mom and stepdad lived there for the last 30 years.
Yes. Yeah. No, you have to declare where you stand in America.
I guess I didn't have to as a legal alien. I have a green card and I never had to do that. Interesting.
Time to play some Sting. You are a legal alien.
There you go. On that singing note, you can follow along George_Affleck on Twitter, George_Affleck. I'm at Jody Vance, Jody with a Y, at Jody Vance on Twitter. Thank you to everybody who listens to the podcast. If you think it's cool, share it with your family and friends so that they can get an idea of the chaos that we cover here on UnSpun podcast. Say goodbye, George.
Bye-bye.